let's get real. Meaning, let's get nitty-gritty. Let's get down to earth. Let's talk about interesting stuff like fanboy junk and planned obsolescence. Let's be logical. Let's not be emotional. I'm not one that's driven to emotion. Sometimes I'll make some bold statements with a little bit of emotional like hyperbole, but there's always something logical behind it. You know, as much as I've kind of ridden Leica for their digital cameras, they are not designed to be thrown away in a few years. When it comes to their film cameras, I used to own a couple Leica film cameras. Those things are as valid today as they were 20, 30, 40 years ago. I had a pair of Nikon F4S's, which is back then was their premier film camera back in photography school. Now those cameras still sell well. I mean, they're cheap, in good working condition. If they're not totally, been mistreated, I mean, they go for about 150 to 170 bucks. Still a valid camera. You see this Nikon D3? I have several of these cameras. It was made back in 2007. You'll still see hardcore professionals where it's like, well, no, if someone's got some money, they're not going to use that old thing. Really? That's not true at all. I still see some hardcore pros actually using Nikon D3s. Well, that's a 12 megapixel camera. So what? Unless you crop the hell out of it, a 20 by 30 print, this is valid from this, it is for any other camera. This is made to last. Now, Nikon, Steve Jobs, who I always thought was a scumbag, even though, I got an Apple logo tattooed on my wrist. I got a love for Apple, the company. I did tech support on the MacBook Air for years. I was #1 in the world on tech support on the MacBook Air. One of my favorite products. Now, so far as their iPhones and their iPods don't really matter anymore. Nobody uses iPods anymore, really. You kind of know how an old iPhone that's like 2 or 3 generations old is kind of like an obsolete piece of junk. And you see, there's many ways of, you need to look up this phrase, planned obsolescence. And this is about Sony, okay? Yeah, this is not a video ragging on Sony. This is a very logical video based upon, hardcore, existential, empirical facts, not doxa. Let's not be in love with opinions, doxophilia. Okay, planned obsolescence. When it comes to iPhone, even Apple admitted that their stuff is based upon planned obsolescence. The hardware is so radically increased. They've always got the hardware in reserve. They never put the latest and greatest in the phone. They give you just barely enough to want it, and they'll just keep stringing you along. But if your phone is magically still working after a few years, it will keep demanding the operating system to update. And this is why you should not update operating systems, iOS's, on older iPhones, because while they'll still basically kind of work, they'll be so pissy slow that you'd be like, oh my god, I gotta get rid of this junk. It's planned obsolescence. It's like, if they're still using our old damn iPhone, we're gonna keep making the operating system for the Apple devices more and more memory and processor intensive until their phone is such a slow piece of crap that they will be forced to go out and buy a new one. That is a type of planned obsolescence. Now, here's the fact. You see this camera here has been out now since 2007. It is a revolution. This is the toughest DSLR ever made by anybody ever. Period. Canon, Nikon. You can't say there's another camera just as tough as this. There is not. That doesn't exist. It does not exist. D700 is not too far from this one. Magnesium chassis alloy, made in Japan. I mean, it will survive ice, water, fire, fire-breathing dragons. There's a famous video of a Frenchman that actually freezes it in a block of ice, and he throws it in the fire, and he takes a shower with it. It's tough. I mean, it's still full of a lot of electronics, so it's not a piece of steel. There's a lot of electronics in there that are fragile. The point is that you won't see somebody using a Sony from 5, 6 years. It just doesn't exist. The stuff is planned obsolescence. The entire company. Okay, and this is an undeniable fact. I don't care whether you think I'm attacking this company. it's based upon planned obsolescence. Every 8 months, something else is rolled out that makes the item before it obsolete and relatively worthless. How do you spot this sort of fanboy junk? Consumer fanboy junk, regardless of what company I'm talking about, and you know exactly which company I'm talking about. You see anybody using it 7 years after it came out, 5 years, 6 years? No. It's designed like an iPhone. We're going to keep making something better. This is going to be junk, or we're going to improve the firmware and people are going to install the firmware, and then it's going to get slow and buggy, and that's going to force you to buy the latest thing. The items are actually meant to self-destruct within 2 to 3 years and be 100% obsolete junk at a maximum of 4 to 5 years. That's why you don't see people using that particular company's cameras that are, 5 years on. You might run across one, okay? But, they're worthless junk. Nobody's using them. They've been obsoleted on purpose. This type of consumerism where things are designed to self-destruct, either due to the build quality they have or due to firmware updates that basically bricks them. That's what Apple is famous for. Apple is famous for, it's like if your iPhone ain't breaking and you've had it for a few years, as soon as you hit the the operating system button and you agree to update the operating system in your iPhone, it'll be bricked, it'll be so slow, you'll just want to chew through lead bars. It'll be so painful. So, a policy of producing a consumer, this is the definition of planned obsolescence, a policy of producing consumer goods that rapidly become obsolete and so that require replacing them. This is achieved by frequent changes in design or termination of the supply of spare parts and the use of non-durable materials, or the release of firmware or operating systems that cause the product to become slow and basically useless, kind of like a crippled old piece of crud. There are still tons of spare parts for the Nikon D3. There are still spare parts for the Nikon F4. I was using that in a photography school 20 years ago. I had 2 of them. I loved it, man. That camera was the cat's ass. I loved mine. I think I slept with that camera. The Nikon F4S. Love it, love it, love it. Now it's like $150, $200, depends on the condition. It still sells well. Here 25 plus years later, that camera still sells well. Still sells really well. Still used by quite a few people. Same thing with old Leica film cameras. It's not planned obsolete. It's not junk designed to self-destruct. It's like as soon as you buy a product from this other company, let's just call them Phony, okay? Let's say it's a product called Phony, who, by the way, their stock was declared junk status in January 2015 by Forbes and a few other Wall Street agencies that rate stock value. You see, their other consumer electronic products are designed that way also. They're designed with product obsolescence in mind. Not only is that environmentally destructive because you're just constantly producing crap that's going to end up in the landfill, it is intellectually corrupt. I understand that a company has to release new stuff. Fuji's coming out with a new camera, Nikon's coming out. They're all rolling out new cameras. But as far as this old camera being obsoleted, no. Now, the Fuji X-T1's only been out for about a couple of years now. But this will still be, I know how things are built. I take cameras apart. I love broken cameras a lot. I salvage. I got drawers and drawers of parts over here, of camera parts. I can use to fix stuff. I use them to show people in demonstrations. This camera will still be rocking and rolling, and it will be a classic camera. I don't know exact the year date that this will become a classic, like the Nikon D3 is a classic. I say give it another 4 years. This camera will be selling for maybe $350, something like that. The Fuji X-T1. But it'll still be rocking and rolling 10 years, as long as you don't abuse it or drop it or piss on it or something. It'll still be rocking and rolling 10 years from now. Your baby doesn't barf on it, something like that. That has nothing to do with how well it was built. But these are cameras that are not built with the idea of yeah, by the way, they're both made in Japan. you know. Planned obsolescence. I have so many people have emailed me. It's like, I've had this phony product for a few years now. I paid a fortune for it. Now it isn't worth crap. I can't even give it away. Yeah, it's exactly like a damn iPhone. It's like I got a 3-year-old iPhone. They'll offer me like $60 for it. Trade-in value. It's like, yeah. And what they're going to do is they're going to clean it up and ship it off to China, to like some dirt village in China, where they'll be like, oh, new product. That's actually exactly what they do with iPhones, by the way. I've talked to people that collect those iPhones. It's like, where do these end up going? They clean them up, they wipe them clean, as far as the firmware and everything that's inside, and they ship them to China, and then they sell them there to consumers. And someone over there has got your hand-me-downs. Southeast Asia too, apparently, but I think mostly it's China. Yeah, planned obsolescence. That's not good. It's not a good philosophy, and it doesn't really doesn't make the consumers very happy. Not in the photography world, it doesn't anyway. So, this is what I call fanboy junk. It's been completely outdated and obsoleted within 9 months, and it is literally designed to self-destruct within 2 to 3 years. And you're never going to see anybody using one of them, whatever model it is, in 4 or 5 years after its release date. You might run across someone that does, but generally speaking, no. Nikon D3, man, these things sell like hotcakes on eBay. Hotcakes. This camera's running on 9 years old right now. People will buy this thing hot and heavy. I mean, you see a halfway decent deal on a Nikon D3 on eBay, it's gone. Just like that, it's gone. You see like a 2-year-old Sony, it sits there and collects cobwebs. Nobody wants it, unless you post it for a giveaway price. So why don't you think about that the next time you consider buying your next camera or switching platforms to something else. Think about planned obsolescence and the actual philosophy that some of these companies, well, I'm actually only talking about one company, that they actually take on their cameras. Okay? Yeah. I don't see how anybody could argue with this video because it's absolutely correct. It is correct. It's not disputable. They're designed with planned obsolescence. These cameras are not. Those cameras definitely are. The facts and figures speak for themselves. What the hell are you going to argue about? Go ahead and fight with me. See if it gets you anywhere. Make yourself feel better. It's not going to change the damn facts any. No. Deal with it. Everybody makes mistakes. Wise up. Where do you want to stick your money? Something that's still working 8 or 10 years from now, or something that's going to be obsolete junk in 2 years? That's your choice. It's your money. I don't make a dime regardless of whatever you buy. Buy whatever makes you happy. Whatever pets your pickle. Huh? Okay? Good. Bye.